In this video, I'm going to go through 6 common misconceptions about what professional photographers do. I recently saw a video online about secrets that professional photographers had, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing because none of it was true. It seemed to be some completely fictitious clickbait video, but it's had so many hits that I thought I'd go through some common misconceptions about photographers. So the first misconception is that we're really good at Photoshop and that we edit our own photos. Now, personally, I don't edit any of my big jobs. I have a retoucher do it for me because I'm a photographer and they're a retoucher. And there seems to be this online guilt thing where if you cannot retouch your own photographs, you're not a photographer. Whereas in the professional world, photographers do not retouch, retouchers retouch. There's a reason why the profession exists of retouching, and it's because they're really skilled at that. Retouchers, generally speaking, aren't brilliant photographers. I'm sure they can take good photos. And photographers, generally speaking, aren't brilliant retouchers, although, like myself, I can use Photoshop. So by not editing my own work in terms of the retouching side of things, it doesn't make me not a good photographer. It actually means that I've got more time to focus on just that, being a photographer, because retouching in Photoshop, that isn't part of my job. It's not my job description. I am a photographer. Okay, so next up is that we shoot our own creative ideas and that we have to make mood boards and that we have to, really be in sync with these things. And for me personally, that isn't true at all. I get given a mood board from my client. I get told what I'm shooting. More often than not, I get given a scamp, which is like a technical drawing of exactly what the image will look like. I'm then the technician who creates this and makes it look good. I'm the person who needs to know what will look best. I will guide them somewhat on taste on the day, but I'll be given a very short set of parameters to work within. And it's not like I'm going out there going, well, do you know what? I've got this great inspiration to do X, Y, and Z, because that isn't what professional photographers do for the most part. There are the odd ones, the Annie Leibovitz of the world, the Chase Jarvis of the world, who get a bit more creative scope because they're so well known that people are paying to have their name on the shoot. But for photographers like myself, and for probably 99% of other professionals, we don't get creative control. We do what we're told. We're more technicians than artists. Now the next one comes down to professional camera equipment and what equipment professionals use. From the professionals that I know, most of us have worse equipment than amateurs. This camera here is a 5D Mark II, and up until this year I was shooting worldwide ad campaigns on it because I'm not spending more money on a camera than I need to because this is my business. Now, granted, I will rent a Phase 1 or a Hasselblad, and sometimes I rent various different bits and pieces, but I'm not going to let that equipment sit on my shelf devaluing because it doesn't make sense. There are 2 photographers in my area who I know shoot on the 1DS camera, which is the first full-frame Canon camera. They do a lot of packaging work, a lot of point-of-sale work, and they're, good jobbing commercial photographers who make a really good living from this profession. But they do not need the latest mirrorless whatever's being sold to people right now, because all they need is 100 ISO, 10 megapixels, and a really high-quality lens. They might be shooting on a Zeiss Otus lens, but it's on a 1DS or a 5D Mark II. And that also comes down to computers and camera equipment. Because it's a business, we're basically trying to avoid having real jobs. We don't spend all of our money on all the kit. I write for f-stoppers, and a lot of times in the comments people are going, well, if you spend a bit more money and get this, you can do this, this, and this, and it all sounds brilliant and great until you look at the bottom line at the end of the year when you're doing your finances, and you've realised that you've spent £5,000 extra this year because you wanted something slightly fancier, and it didn't make you a penny more. Now, next up is that all professional photographers have agents. Now, I have an agent personally. I've worked without an agent. I've worked with a manager. My current setup for me is having an agent, and I like that. But most of us don't. There are great professional photographers who don't have agents. There are some extremely famous celebrities who have a voicemail machine at home, and if you phone up some names that you wouldn't believe, you get their voicemail, you leave the message, and they will phone you back later when they've got time. They don't have agents. It's a personal preference. You do not need an agent to be a professional commercial photographer. One of the biggest misconceptions that I think of is that we shoot all the time or that we shoot a lot. I recently had a comment saying, how do you have all this time to shoot these videos? And it comes down to 2 things. One is I don't shoot that often. And the other one is that I do block work, which I'm going to do a video on anyway. And today I'm shooting 10 or 12 videos in one solid sweep, and then tonight I'll edit them whilst we're watching TV or whatever it may be. But we don't shoot every day. The jobs that I do are at a value where I don't need to shoot every day, and also there aren't that many of them. And because of that, they're at that value. Now, about a year ago, I did my accounts and I was looking through it, and I realised there was a certain value of job that shooting it just wasn't worth doing. So anything now that drops below a certain level of financial repayment, I don't do because it isn't worth my time. There was something like 30 days of shooting that if I hadn't have done, they'd have made like a 3% difference to my annual income. So with that in mind, I don't shoot that much. I shoot on average once a week. Now granted, that average doesn't pan out very well. It often means 4 weeks of doing nothing, followed by the most stressful month of my life, travelling around Europe, travelling up and down the country and shooting all over the place and feeling like I'm going to have a mental breakdown. Weeks like this week, I don't have a shoot all week. This week, I'm doing YouTube videos, some F-Stoppers articles. I think I'm going to build something cool in the studio just for fun because I'm a freelancer and that means right now, I'm free. And the last common misconception about photographers who are professional is that we're better than amateurs. And this is fundamentally not true. The best photographer that I know doesn't make a penny from it. He doesn't want to make a penny from it. He has no interest in making money from it. It is his hobby and he is so much better than I am. It is unbelievable. You couldn't believe the quality of work that he does just for a laugh. There's no intention there to ever make money. He doesn't really show it to anybody. He does, it's just his own work for him. Now, granted, he might not be able to reproduce what a client asks for on deadline in the studio, but in terms of creating just the best image possible, his work is head and shoulders above mine. And I also know other professional photographers who are way below the standard that I shoot at, and they make a great living from it because they've got their niche, they've got their system, and they can keep the consistency. And that's what it's about in professional photography, it's consistent results. So I hope that's dispelled some of the common misconceptions about professional photographers. If you do like this video, do hit like, do hit subscribe. I'm putting daily content out through the month of September, and then by the end of that I'm probably going to have a breakdown of some sort and then come up with a more reasonable schedule. I'll see you all next time.